Welcome to Planet Pulse. You know, it's a staggering thought, but some 93% of all the humans who have ever called this world home are now dead. For every single person alive right now, there are 15 who are no longer with us. This simple stark fact really reminds us that the Earth, our magnificent home, is a profoundly dangerous place. But this raises a fascinating question. Ignoring the unpredictable, the freak occurrences, where is the most persistently perilous place on the surface of our planet? Where does danger lurk not as a fleeting event, but as a constant defining feature of the environment? Today, we will embark on a journey to explore these very locations, the most dangerous places on Earth. We'll travel from the highest peaks to the deepest ocean trenches, from scorching deserts to frozen wastelands. And we'll also delve into the invisible threats, the microscopic killers that have shaped human history, and the modern dangers created by our own hands. This is not just a tour of treacherous landscapes, it's an exploration of the very limits of life and the remarkable, sometimes terrifying, forces that govern our existence. So, prepare yourselves. The answers may surprise you, challenging what you thought you knew about risk and survival. The world is filled with wonders, but it's equally filled with perils that demand our respect and understanding. Stay tuned as we dive in and uncover the perils that await in the most extreme corners of our world. Life, in its essence, is a delicate dance with temperature. For us, a species born of the tropics, the cold is a formidable adversary. In the planet's frozen expanses, such as the Antarctic plateau where temperatures can plummet below -80 degrees Celsius, survival is measured in minutes. Here the air itself feels like a physical blow, stealing warmth with ruthless efficiency. Unprotected skin freezes almost instantly. The body's first desperate response is to shiver, a frantic muscular effort to generate heat, but this is a finite defense. Soon the cold penetrates deeper, slowing the mind, inducing a fatal state of confusion and lethargy known as hypothermia. It's a quiet, insidious death. As the core temperature drops, the shivering stops. A strange sense of warmth may spread, a cruel trick of a failing nervous system, luring the victim into a final, peaceful slumber from which they will never wake. Every breath draws the searing cold deeper into the lungs, freezing the delicate tissues from within. Without an external source of warmth, fire, shelter, specialized clothing, the battle is hopelessly one-sided. In these realms of extreme cold, warmth is not a comfort. It is the very currency of life, and it's a currency that is spent all too quickly. At the opposite end of the spectrum lies the crushing oppression of extreme heat. In places like Death Valley in the United States or the Lut Desert in Iran, the sun is not a life-giver, but a relentless tyrant. Here, surface temperatures can soar high enough to cook an egg, and the air shimmers with a heat that assaults the lungs. The primary danger is, of course, dehydration. The body, in a desperate attempt to cool itself, pours out sweat, rapidly depleting its vital water reserves. The thirst becomes all-consuming. The mouth turns dry and chalky, and the mind begins to falter under the strain. If water is not replenished, the body's cooling system fails. Sweating stops, and the core temperature begins to climb uncontrollably. This is heat stroke, a medical emergency of the highest order. The skin becomes hot and dry, the pulse races, and the brain, effectively being cooked within the skull, ceases to function properly. Confusion gives way to delirium, seizures, and finally coma and death. In these furnaces of the natural world, shade offers only temporary respite. Survival depends entirely on finding water, a simple molecule that becomes the most precious substance on Earth, the difference between life and a swift, feverish demise. We now ascend to the summit of Mount Everest, the highest point on our planet. At over 8,848 meters, it is a place of breathtaking yet lethal beauty. The danger here is not of temperature alone, but of the very air, or lack thereof. At this altitude, the atmospheric pressure is roughly a third of what it is at sea level. Each breath, no matter how deep, draws in only a fraction of the oxygen our bodies are designed for. This is the death zone, a name earned through countless tragedies. Without weeks of careful acclimatization, allowing the body to produce more red blood cells, a human would lose consciousness in minutes. even for the most prepared climbers, the body is in a constant state of decay. The lack of oxygen, hypoxia, starves the brain and muscles. Judgment becomes impaired, coordination fails, and exhaustion is total. Simple tasks become monumental efforts. The risk of high-altitude cerebral edema, where the brain swells within the skull, or high-altitude pulmonary edema, where the lungs fill with fluid, is ever present and rapidly fatal. It is a place where humans are simply not meant to be. A stark reminder that there are frontiers on our own planet that we can only visit as fleeting, vulnerable guests, utterly dependent on bottled oxygen and our own fragile physiology. From the highest point on Earth, we now plunge to its lowest, the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific. Here, in the Challenger Deep, the ocean floor lies nearly 11,000 meters below the surface. The absence of air is replaced by the overwhelming presence of water. The pressure at this depth is immense, over 1,000 times greater than at the surface. It is the equivalent of having 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of you. It is a pressure so intense it alters the very chemistry of life. A force that would crush a human being in an instant. Were you to be exposed to this environment, there would be no time for drowning. The air spaces in your body, your lungs, your sinuses, would implode immediately. The sheer force of the water would compress your entire form into a fraction of its size, a near instantaneous and catastrophic event. It is a place more alien and hostile to us than the surface of the moon. Only through the marvels of engineering and specialized submersibles built like armored spheres can we briefly visit this dark, hidden world. The Mariana Trench is the ultimate testament to the power of pressure, a zone where the weight of the world is a literal and lethal reality. Few natural phenomena are as mesmerizing or as utterly destructive as molten lava, flowing from the Earth's mantle at temperatures between 700 and 1,200 degrees Celsius. It is a river of liquid rock. Popular culture, particularly in films, has often depicted a dramatic, sinking demise for those unfortunate enough to fall in. The reality, however, is far more violent and instantaneous. Lava is incredibly dense, far denser than water, and the human body. One would not sink, but rather lie on the surface much like a cork on honey. The end would be explosive. The human body is roughly 60% water. Upon contact with the extreme heat of the lava, this water would flash boil into steam, expanding to over 1,600 times its original volume. This rapid, violent expansion would cause the body to quite literally explode. The superheated gases and steam produced would also be instantly lethal, searing the lungs with a single breath. The myths of cinema are a dramatic fiction. The truth of physics and biology is a far more immediate and explosive end. It is a brutal demonstration of what happens when the fragile, water-based chemistry of life meets the raw, geological heat of our planet's interior. The most dangerous places on Earth are not always defined by geography. Sometimes the danger is everywhere, an invisible enemy carried on the very air we breathe. This was the case in 1918 with the outbreak of the H1N1 influenza virus, misleadingly known as the Spanish flu. In a world already ravaged by war, this pandemic unleashed a wave of death on an unprecedented scale. It is estimated to have infected 1/3 of the world's population and killed between 50 and 100 million people, more than the Great War itself. Unlike typical flu strains that are most dangerous to the very young and the very old, this pandemic was uniquely lethal to healthy young adults. It spread with terrifying speed, facilitated by the mass movement of troops at the end of the war. From the trenches of Europe to the most remote Pacific islands, no corner of the globe was spared. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and cities were silenced as fear of infection kept people indoors. The 1918 pandemic was a chilling reminder that our greatest threat may not be a predator we can see, but a microscopic virus, a simple strand of RNA, capable of bringing global civilization to its knees. Looking further back in time, we encounter another microscopic killer that, honestly, redrew the map of human history, the bubonic plague. Carried by fleas on the backs of rats, the bacterium Yersinia pestis swept across Asia, North Africa and Europe in the 14th century, an event that would become known as the Black Death. The scale of the mortality was, well, apocalyptic. It is estimated to have killed anywhere from 30 to 60% of Europe's entire population. In the space of just a few years, bustling towns were silenced, and fields were left untended as the social fabric of the continent unraveled. The disease was terrifying in its symptoms. It caused fever, vomiting, and the appearance of painful swellings, or buboes, in the lymph nodes, which would turn black as the tissue died, giving the plague its name. Death often came within days. The plague did not just represent a physical danger, it was a psychological one. It shattered faith in institutions, from medicine to the church, and fundamentally altered the economic and political landscape of the world for centuries to come. It stands as a dark monument to the power of disease and the profound vulnerability of human societies to the unseen world of microbes. While pandemics like the flu and plague are terrifying in their explosive intensity, there is another killer whose threat is not a historical event, but a constant grinding reality. This is malaria, caused by a protozoan parasite of the genus Plasmodium, and transmitted by the bite of an infected female Anopheles mosquito. Malaria has been a companion to humanity for millennia. It is quite possibly the single deadliest disease in all of human history, responsible for a staggering number of deaths over the ages. Today it continues to claim hundreds of thousands of lives each year, and the vast majority of them are young children in sub-Saharan Africa. The danger zones for malaria are vast, covering much of the planet's tropical and subtropical regions. For billions of people, the buzz of a mosquito at night is not just an annoyance, it's a potential death sentence. The parasite invades the liver and then the red blood cells, causing cycles of high fever, chills, and sweats that weaken the body and can lead to severe anemia, organ failure, and death. While we do have treatments and preventative measures, the parasite and its mosquito vector are locked in a constant evolutionary arms race with us. Malaria zones represent a persistent, enduring peril, a daily battle for survival fought on a microscopic scale. Not all dangers are natural. Some of the most lethal places on Earth are of our own making. Perhaps no place exemplifies this more chillingly than Lake Karachay in central Russia. During the Cold War, it was used as a dumping site for high-level radioactive waste from the Mayak plutonium plant, one of the largest nuclear facilities in the Soviet Union. For decades, a toxic cocktail of radioactive isotopes, including strontium-90 and cesium-137, was poured directly into the small, unassuming lake, turning it into arguably the most polluted spot on the entire planet. The levels of radiation became so extreme that, at its peak, standing on the shore of the lake for just 1 hour would deliver a dose of radiation more than sufficient to be fatal. The danger was invisible, silent, and absolute. The radioactive particles contaminated the sediment, the water, and were even carried by the wind as dust when the lake partially dried up in the 1960s, irradiating the surrounding landscape. Though the lake has since been filled in with concrete blocks and soil in an attempt to contain the threat, it remains a terrifying monument to the long-lasting and deadly legacy of nuclear waste, a man-made hell on Earth. Finally, we must confront a danger that comes not from nature, nor from our industrial byproducts, but from ourselves. For this we travel to San Pedro Sula in Honduras. For many years this city held the grim title of the murder capital of the world for a country not at war. While rates have fallen, it remains an exceptionally dangerous place, where violence is a pervasive feature of daily life. The high murder rate is driven by a complex web of factors, including intense rivalries between transnational gangs, or maras, drug trafficking, deep-seated poverty, and political instability. Here, the danger is not an abstract environmental force, it is personal and unpredictable. It lurks in certain neighborhoods, on specific street corners, and in the ever-present threat of extortion and gang warfare. Life is lived with a constant awareness of risk, where being in the wrong place at the wrong time can have fatal consequences. The story of San Pedro Sula is a powerful and tragic reminder that the most dangerous animal on the planet can often be another human. It shows that the most perilous environments are sometimes not those forged by nature, but those created by the breakdown of social order. Our journey has taken us across the planet, from the freezing, airless peaks of Everest to the crushing, absolute darkness of the Mariana Trench. We have witnessed the destructive power of molten rock and the invisible lethality of radiation at Lake Karachay. We have seen how a microscopic virus or a bacterium can bring down empires, and how the bite of a single mosquito remains one of history's greatest killers. and we have confronted the sobering reality that sometimes, the greatest danger we face, is from our own kind, as seen in the streets of San Pedro Sula. Across the planet, danger takes many forms. It reminds us of the delicate balance that sustains us. Understanding these dangers, whether they are natural or man-made, is not about dwelling on fear. Instead, it reminds us both of our fragility and of the incredible power of nature, life, and science. It gives us a profound appreciation for the safe, stable environments that most of us are fortunate enough to call home, and it fosters respect for the immense forces that shape our world. It highlights the ingenuity it takes to survive in hostile places, and the compassion needed to address the dangers we create for ourselves. The Earth is a place of infinite wonder, and its dangers are part of that complex tapestry. By exploring them, we learn more about our planet and ultimately, more about ourselves and our precarious place within it. Stay curious, keep learning, and thank you for watching Planet Pulse.